start. Now this is the second class related to the development of the head and neck. So yesterday we started the head and neck embryology. So now then I have talked to you about the pharyngeal apparatus. So today the next class will be about the development of the face and palate. If you remember yesterday's class, I have mentioned that the pharyngeal arches, especially the first arch, also takes part in the formation of your face. So once again, let me just rewind whatever was taught yesterday. So quick review of yesterday's class. So we have 5 paired arches. So just look at the image down there. Identify the stomodium. So stomodium is the ectodermal pit, and you can make out the prominences around. So there is one prominence which is overlying the future brain. That is the first brain vesicle is the forebrain vesicle. Then you can make out some more elevations on the sides surrounding the stomodium, and they are the pharyngeal arches. Right? So the first pharyngeal arch and the second pharyngeal arch are named. The first one is called as the mandibular arch, and the second one the hyoid arch. And what is this arch? So when you're seeing this elevation, so yesterday I have shown you what is within the arch. So the arch is being composed externally by ectodermal epithelium, internally by endodermal epithelium, in between is mesenchyme. So you can say that the prominence or elevations which you're seeing on the external surface of the embryo is nothing but proliferated mesenchyme. It's an accumulation of mesenchyme. So we can define it as any prominence as an elevation of ectoderm overlying an accumulation of condensed mesenchyme. So this mesenchyme is again an embryonic tissue. So embryonic tissues are epithelial tissue and mesenchyme tissue. So this mesenchyme is composed of 2 things. One is the head mesoderm and also the migrated neural crest cells. So I hope this much is enough to review yesterday's class. Then coming to the stomodium. So the stomodium is a pit, an ectodermal depression, and the floor of which is the oropharyngeal membrane. So the oropharyngeal membrane is one of the 2 regions where the ectoderm directly meets the endoderm. So if this oropharyngeal membrane ruptures, then there'll be a communication of the primitive oral cavity. So now this depression, which we call as a stomodium, is nothing but the primitive oral cavity. So what happens if the oropharyngeal membrane ruptures? Then there'll be communication between the primitive oral cavity and the digestive tract. Okay. So oropharyngeal membrane is, and the other area where these 2 membranes are together, that is ecto and endo, is the clavicle membrane. And yeah, the 3 brain vesicles. So you should remember that the neural tube forms the central nervous system, which is composed of the brain and the spinal cord. So the cranial-most part of the neural tube is having 3 enlarged brain vesicles. The first one is the forebrain, midbrain, and the hindbrain. So along the dorsolateral aspects of these vesicles, we have the neural crest cells, which are continuous with the truncal neural crest cells. So these neural crest cells, they will be migrating to occupy these prominences. And coming to the neural crest cells, so that we have talked about it yesterday. And neural crest cells are very important in forming your craniofacial skeleton. So they are going to form the connective tissue, then the cartilage, the bone, the ligaments. So they're very important in the formation of your craniofacial skeleton. And today's class is about the development of face. So definitely we've got a lot to do with the neural crest cells. And cleft or groove, I told you, it's a depression. So you can make out the ectoderm pit is also a depression. The stomodium is a depression. Again, ectodermal clefts, which are between the arches, are again clefts or grooves. So any depression between 2 elevations, we call it as a groove or the cleft. And when you look from the external surface of an embryo, you're looking at the ectoderm, which is covering the embryo. And obviously the cleft is formed of the ectoderm, right? So this is about yesterday's class. Yeah. The same questions come all the time. So what, when, why, where, and who. So before we go into this, the next slides, let me just talk about the face. So you know the parts of your face, and this face is formed of so many prominences. So the central, they are forming around a central part, and the central part, let us take it as a stomodium. So stomodium is an ectodermal depression, okay, around which so many prominences develop, and all these fuse together to form the face. So these prominences are nothing but condensed mesenchyme. Okay, so the mesenchyme is proliferating. So there are total 5 prominences developing around your primitive oral cavity that have resulted in forming your face. Okay, so these images which you can see, some scanning electron micrographs of a developing embryo, can make out there's so much. Okay, you can make out the stomodium here. Okay, and there are so many elevations coming here forward, and then trying to form the face. And once again, this animation. Observe that all of the prominences are just moving around this stomodium. Okay, so this is the region here. So how is the face formed? So face is, so the embryonic period. So the embryonic period is from the 4th to the 8th week of the development, and all the important structures are laid down during this period. So when the face also begins to develop at the time, in the 4th week. So in the 3 weeks time, the embryo is a flat disc. From the 4th week onwards, now there is a folding. So cranial fold and caudal fold we have seen, and the cranial fold, and that's when the stomodium is formed because of the depression of the oropharyngeal membrane down. So the 4th week marks the beginning of the formation of the face, and almost by the end of the 2nd month of the development, you can identify the embryo as a human embryo. Okay, so the characteristic human face is observed by the end of the 2nd week. So this is a period when the face is developing. So total, how many prominences are forming? So there are total 5 facial prominences that are involved in formation of the face. And I told you the prominence is because the underlying mesenchyme is proliferating and neural crystals are joining in. So we can say that these prominences are individualized swellings, come from different parts, they come together and they form the different parts of your face. Like you have your forehead, you have the cheeks, you have the lower part of your face. So all these are being formed by the prominences. Then what are they? So we should know what we give names to these prominences. So the first one is called as a frontonasal prominence. So fronto is occupying your frontal region here, and this is the nasal part. So frontonasal prominence. The other is 2 maxillary prominences and then 2 mandibular prominences. Okay, so these 5. So if in the exam it is asked, what are the prominences forming the face? You should mention the 5 prominences, right? Now we should know from where is this frontonasal prominence coming and maxillary and mandibular processes. So the frontonasal prominence is, it overlies the developing forebrain. So when you have seen the image of the folded embryo, so I told you that big elevation is because of the developing forebrain, and overlying it is what develops the frontonasal prominence. And just below it, you have the first pharyngeal arch. This pharyngeal arch is called as the mandibular arch, and this gives rise to the mandibular process, and the process just above it, that is the maxillary process. Okay, so this is how these 5 prominences are associated with the forebrain and your first pharyngeal arch. Then, so where are these coming? They have their destination is they grow towards the stomodium. So they'll be surrounding the primitive oral cavity. And these prominences, when they're growing, that means there should be some mitosis. So growth is by the process of mitosis. So there'll be proliferation of the mesenchyme, and more number of neural crystals come in and join it. And these are ready to form the connective tissue elements of your face, the cartilage, the bone, and the ligaments. Okay. Then again, a little bit, like I told you, the neural crystals are along the forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain, and the spinal cord. So the forebrain and midbrain, they come, and to the neural crystal over there, they come towards your frontonasal process. Then the neural crystals along your midbrain and hindbrain, they come towards your mandibular arch. Okay, that is giving rise to the maxillary process and your mandibular process. So, okay, so that's the mesenchyme origin. I mean, the neural crystals contributing to that mesenchyme of that particular process. Yeah. So I told you the central part is the stomodium, and around it all the prominences come together. So there are the single one is the frontonasal process, and the paired are the 2 maxillary and the 2 mandibular. So this frontonasal process is occupying your ventrolateral part of the forebrain, and here you can make out. So this elevation is because of the developing forebrain here. So this is the ventral part, and this is the lateral part of the forebrain. So this entire region here. So overlying this prominence is the frontonasal prominence. And you can see it is forming the rostral boundary of the stomodium. So rostral is the cranial part. And then The frontal part, so frontonasal. So there are two structures together. So frontal part forms this frontal region, that is your brow. So whatever your forehead is there, that is because of the frontal part. And the lower nasal part, that will form your nose. Okay. So if you can just see your face like this. So this part is the frontal, and then this nose is from the nasal process. But the two come from one process. So the name is the frontonasal process. And the nasal part is forming the rostral boundary of your stomodium. So your nose is above your mouth. Okay. Then the maxillary and mandibular processes. So this region here, okay, you have the mandibular arch. So this mandibular arch will give an elevation just above it. Okay, so the pharyngeal arches are formed along the lateral and they move forwards. Okay, so they're like the horseshoe shape from here to here. So for this arch, this part will be the dorsal part, right? So from here, one more prominence comes, and that is the maxillary prominence. So maxillary prominence is coming from the mandibular arch. So both maxillary and mandibular processes, they are part of the mandibular arch. So the first one is the maxillary process. So you can see they're coming, so that's the meaning of dorsal end of the arch. So this is the arch, the dorsal end, from here a process, that is a maxillary process. And this remaining part is called as a mandibular process. So the maxillary processes are forming this lateral boundaries of this large mouth, that is a stomodium. And then so this is 2 and 3. So this is the paired maxillary processes, which are the lateral boundaries of the stomodium. Then coming to the mandibular processes, so you can see the 4 and 5 which I have labeled. So these are the mandibular processes. So they are forming the caudal boundary of the stomodium. And just below that, you can see some more elevations here. So these represent the second pharyngeal arch. The second pharyngeal arch is also called as the hyoid arch. Okay. So the first arch here, this is second arch, and this depression here between these two is the ectodermal groove or the ectodermal cleft. The first ectodermal groove or the first ectodermal cleft of the pharyngeal apparatus. And this is the dorsal part from which another process has come, and this part is the maxillary process. Okay. And now this stomodium, so what is there deep down the stomodium? We have an oropharyngeal membrane. But this oropharyngeal membrane cannot keep on, it just can't be there throughout the embryonic and fetal period, because there should be a communication of the mouth with the digestive tract. If you remember when we have talked about the amniotic fluid during the general embryology part. So the fetus, it swallows the amniotic fluid, okay, and the kidneys produce the amniotic fluid. It's like a cycle. So there's a condition called as polyhydramnios, when there is some esophageal atresia or whatever, or some development of brain defects, which may prevent the fetus from swallowing the amniotic fluid. So all the fluid stays back in the amniotic sac and more is being produced, leading to a condition called polyhydramnios. So by this, so you should know that the oropharyngeal membrane is not intact, it has to rupture. So this is again rupturing in the 4th week itself. Why? Because the prominences are forming, there's something stretching, so much is forming and the face has to grow. So then the oropharyngeal membrane says, so its fate is it has to rupture. Then how will it rupture? It has to stop proliferating, stop expanding. So it says, okay, no mitosis, I will not proliferate, I'll just be like this, we are rigid. But the processes around it, as they're growing, they try to stretch it, and ultimately the buccopharyngeal membrane ruptures. So ruptures is like a tear. If you're trying to tear a piece of cloth, it's not very uniform. No? So at many places the ruptures take place and finally it tears. So same way, the rupturing of oropharyngeal membrane is not like it completely just cleanly gets wiped out as if you erased it. So there'll be some tags also. Then finally it is totally lost. Okay. So this is about it. You can see the development of the face with the 5 facial processes. So the first one is the frontonasal process, which gives rise to your forehead. And this nasal process will be forming this entire broad part, but you don't have such a broad nose. So something is going to happen to it. So that fate, we'll learn it next. So this broad part here, the nasal part, that will form your nose. And it is also forming the cranial boundary of your stomodium. Then coming to the maxillary processes. So here, these are projecting here and they're forming the lateral boundaries of the stomodium. And here, the mandibular, they're coming together. So this is about the 5 and the stomodium, and what's below is the oropharyngeal membrane. So what is the fate of the frontonasal prominence? So I told you what it forms, and now there is one special thing that I should tell you about the plaque coat. So you'll come across certain words like placoid, and placoid is a thickening of the surface ectoderm. Okay, so thickening of surface ectoderm. And here, coming to the face related to the sense organ development, we'll be coming across three terms. That is an otic placoid, which is going to form your ear. Then we have a lens placoid, which will be a part of your eye. And we have another is a nasal placoid or an olfactory placoid. Okay, so in this class, we will just talk only about the nose and a little bit about the ear and external ear and the eye. So you have to remember this word called as nasal placoid. So placoid is a thickening of the surface ectoderm. What other placoids are there in the face related to the sense organs development? That is the otic placoid and as well as the lens placoid. So this projection is, what is it? It's like covered by an ectoderm, and it is inside is a mesenchyme. So the inferolateral part. So in this the diagram again. So this is okay. So this region is where this is the inferolateral part of the frontonasal process. So that's where there'll be some thickenings that will develop. Okay, there'll be some thickenings, and then they start. Again, these are thickenings, and then surrounding mesenchyme proliferates. So to understand this, so imagine you just put a blanket. Okay, you just select an area of design there, and on either side you start putting some cushions. Okay, add more cushions. Okay, so again there'll be elevations. Okay, and then this be like a pit. So the same thing happens here. So the nasal placoids, once the ectoderm thickens, and now it is destined to form the nasal placoid and the olfactory epithelium. What happens is the surrounding mesoderm, the mesenchyme starts proliferating. So again, there is an elevation around it. Okay, so now the elevation around it will be called as the medial and lateral nasal process. So on the nasal process, the surface ectoderm is thickening on either side, on the inferolateral aspect. Then around it, again, like a horseshoe shape, it is going to increase in thickness. So again, that nasal has become medial, which is towards the middle, and lateral, which is away from it. And then these keep on sinking. So if you can, your anterior nares, so nostrils are there. So that's like, they're not very superficial, they're going deep. That means the olfactory pit was going on, projecting, going more deep. And if you, later when you learn about in the gross anatomy of your nasal cavity, so the upper part of your nasal cavity, so here is where you have the olfactory epithelium, okay, the roof of the nasal cavities. So from the surface region, okay, which was facing anteriorly, it has come down like this and has gone up. Okay, so that's the nostrils for development, and they sink and they go up. And you can see, so accumulation of mesenchyme around each placoid, and this causes a horseshoe-shaped elevation. So this is that horseshoe-shaped elevation. So again here, you can see the sinking of the pit. Okay, so it's going. So as it is, the ectoderm is going deep because of the proliferating prominences around. And this is the lateral process, nasal process. This is the medial nasal process. Now in this you can see the stomodium here, the frontal part of the frontonasal process. Then you can see this pit is going deep. And this is the medial nasal process, and this is the lateral nasal process. And you can see this part, you can see continuity here. This is the mandibular arch. So from the dorsal part is this maxillary process, and this part is the mandibular process. So you can see how, I mean, it's quite wide here. So we don't have such a big mouth extending up to this part. That means as they're fusing, merging together, that your mouth becomes much smaller compared to that of the embryonic stage, relatively. Yeah. And one more thing I can show you here. So this pits which you can see here. So once again, this is the medial nasal process. This is the lateral nasal process. This is the maxillary process. This is the mandibular process. So between the lateral nasal process and the maxillary process, what you can see is much behind. You can see this is the region where the eye is going to develop. So this lateral nasal process is separating the olfactory pit from the developing eye. Okay. Again, here one more thing which you can make out is this is the lateral nasal process. This is maxillary process. Between them, again, there's a depression. Okay. And this depression, this is nasal, this is maxillary. So this is a nasomaxillary furrow. This is ectodermal. So nasomaxillary ectodermal furrow or a groove. Okay, so it is deep. We call it as the spit, and this is again called a groove, right? So medial lateral nasal process, maxillary process. Between medial and lateral in the lower parts, what you're finding here, this is the olfactory pit, which is going sinking and going deep. And this lateral nasal process is separating the olfactory pit from the developing eye. Again, this is separated from the maxillary process by a groove, and the groove is named by this adjoining prominences. So nasomaxillary groove, okay? And this is ectodermal groove. So the same is written here. So an ectodermal nasomaxillary groove. So here again, you can see the yellow part is all the medial part, and the lateral one here, and the nostril here, the olfactory pit. And then the developing eye. So these two are being separated by a groove. This is a stomodium here. So later there'll be a fusion, merging of this. So there's a story behind this. Okay. So once again, one more picture here. You can see clearly demarcated pictures here, showing the horseshoe-shaped structures. So this is the developing eye. So the eyes initially are here, okay, and later they come forward. So sometimes we keep wondering how, you know, the directors, like, they create the characters of some aliens in the movies. So I think that's like they study the embryology part and they see this and they relate it and they create the characters, the aliens. And of course, all the aliens are only entering the United States. Okay, so this is the developing eye. Okay, so developing eye, this is the olfactory pit, and between this nasal process and the maxillary, you're here finding the nasolacrimal groove. So already the lacrimal apparatus class is over. So by now, you must be understanding what is nasolacrimal duct. Okay, so the lacrimal apparatus is there. So the tears are produced, then they go over the conjunctival sac. It is again collected by canaliculi. Then they enter into a lacrimal sac, which is here medially, and then drained by a nasolacrimal duct, which opens into the infralateral aspect of the nose. That is why when you cry, your nose also starts running, because there's a communication between the conjunctival sac and your lateral wall of the nose. That is in particular the inferior meatus of the nose. So this nasolacrimal groove has something to do with the nasolacrimal duct. So I've just drawn this here. So I told you, when the elevations, this groove is nothing but a depression, ectodermal depression. So when you're looking, you just cut it and you're seeing. So this is the lateral nasal process. So here, lateral nasal process, this is the maxillary process, in between is the groove. The same I've drawn here, the maxillary process, the lateral nasal process, and this is actually the groove. And we named it by looking from this side. We look from this side and we say that this is an nasomaxillary groove. And what is the below this ectodermal line? This is all the mesenchyme. Okay. Now, this region is particularly important because this has to form the nasolacrimal duct, because your eye is developing here, the nose is developing here, and we need a communication between them via the nasolacrimal duct. So what is the obvious place that it has to develop? It has to develop in this region that is between your lateral nasal process and your maxilla. So look at this floor of this groove. Okay, so this is all ectoderm. So ectodermal cells separate. So again, I repeat, the embryonic tissue is epithelial and mesenchyme. Epithelial remains composed, it's very stable, forms sheets of cells and they form the lining. But mesenchyme is like, you know, more active. They keep going here and they're transforming themselves. It's like the kids that are playing, whereas ectoderm, it's like the kids who are too disciplined. So whenever a cell has to separate and move to another place, the process is an epithelial mesenchymal transformation. So how these epithelial cells, which have to be compact, they have left the place because of an epithelial mesenchymal transition or a transformation. So slowly they just separate the ectodermal cells and then they come down to, they sink into the underlying mesoderm. Okay, so here they are formed. And then the continuity is again formed here. So when they sink here, they form a rod of cells. And this is very solid, okay? And this will extend like this. So this is the region of the nasolacrimal groove. So this rod, which is from here to here, okay? So it starts growing towards your eye and also towards the nose. So when it goes towards the eye, it expands to form the lacrimal sac, okay? And it grows down when it is going towards your nose, it will open into the lateral wall of the nose. Then this solid cord, it is solid throughout, and later it becomes canalized. Near birth, it becomes canalized, and it becomes patent. Okay, so before that it is solid cord. So clear? So once again I'll just repeat the ectodermal nasomaxillary groove. So this is the maxillary process, the lateral nasal process, and the groove, ectodermal part, and then the cells are separating, they're sinking down into the mesenchyme, then they form a solid rod and it starts growing towards the eye and then towards the nose. So it communicates with the conjunctival sac, and cranially it expands to form the lacrimal sac. So the nasolacrimal rod which has formed cranially expands to form the sac, and below it is the duct. So this duct is solid initially and later it gets canalized. Okay, so the same thing I've written. And the nasolacrimal duct. So, and one more, remember one thing. This mesenchyme. So you just, it's not soft, you just touch your face, it's not soft because there is a bone there. That means this mesenchyme starts producing, becomes ossifying. So I told you there are two processes for the bone formation. The first one is, first a cartilage model is laid down, and then over that it is replaced by the bone. That is called as endochondral ossification. And the other one is a mesenchyme is there. That mesenchyme becomes the bone without any cartilaginous model. So especially the membranous ossification is seen in the craniofacial skeleton, and the mesenchyme is so of the face, the neural crestals, which is the origin. So they form a craniofacial skeleton. Okay, so here again, the maxilla. So this is the region. Okay, you can touch this bone here. Your upper teeth are related to. So this is the maxilla. So this maxilla, as it forms, it also encloses the nasolacrimal duct. Okay, so the nasolacrimal duct is invested by bone during ossification of the maxilla. And whatever bones have ossified from mesenchyme, they're called as membranous bones or dermal bones. So again, the same here, you can see the green part in this image is showing you the lacrimal sac. And then this is and the next picture, this one is showing the nasolacrimal duct opening into the lateral wall of the nose. Okay, so here you can see the canaliculi communicating with the conjunctival sac. And now look at this picture. So normally I told you there should be a fusion. So how will this fusion take place? So once this thing has formed, slowly the mesenchyme seeps and both of them exchange and try to elevate this pitch. And then you get a smooth contour. So that's the merging of facial prominences. That's why you don't see something dipping between my nose and my cheek. Okay, because the mesenchyme has proliferated and has smoothened that part. But look at this. There is a cleft, you can see, because they have failed to fuse, failed to merge. This is called an oblique facial cleft. It's up to the eye. So when there's a cleft like this, what can be exposed? The nasolacrimal duct. Okay. And the median nasal process. So here is a nostril. This part is median. So the maxillary process, they start growing towards the mouth. So when they're going towards the mouth, they try to compress the nasal processes. So the middle, what you have, the medial nasal processes. So your face, your nose is protruding out, projecting out of your face, right? That's because your cheeks are trying to grow in, then compressing the nasal process, and the middle part between your nostrils, that becomes very much flattened, okay? And it forms the bridge. So this part is your bridge of the nose and the septum. So here, this part and the septum of the nose, they're formed by the approximation of the medial nasal processes. So that's why initially the nostrils are away, but they're pushed and they come together. And then this is when you're looking from below, the undersurface. So the two nostrils here, and this part is the fused medial nasal processes. So they're coming together to form this part here, the philtrum, and just your upper lip, and then a little bit behind. So you can touch with your tongue, the roof of your oral cavity, and that's what you have the palate, okay? And you can also feel the teeth there. So that is the alveolus. And in front of it, you have the upper lip in the midline part. So that entire part is formed of an intermaxillary segment. So when the median nasal process are coming together, so in the nose region, they're forming a very thin part that is the nasal septum. In the lower part, they expand more, and your central part of this face, so the philtrum and then the four incisors related with the alveolus, they all come from intermaxillary segment. So this is one which you have to draw the diagram, only then you'll understand this. So initially the facial processes, they form as separate swellings and then they come together. So the merging of the tissue. Okay, so the merging of the mesenchymal tissue that eliminates the groove. So failure of the merging will lead to the facial clefts. And now, so as the process coming together, so what's happening? The nose, the width is going to reach its normal level. So as you should always remember that the development is all under the control of the genes located in this nucleus. Okay, so that's directing like what should be the width of the mouth and how big the nose should be or how small it should be or whatever. Okay, so that's all being told by the genes in the cell. So any disruption in that process, definitely the anomalies develop. Okay, so by the second month, that's when the normal width of the mouth is formed. So now coming to the structures contributing to the face. So the frontonasal part, so what it forms, then the maxillary, so the cheeks part. Okay, all this you can study. The ala of the nose are the sides. The sides of your nose is the lateral nasal part. So the frontonasal process, coming to your nose, the bridge is formed by the frontonasal process. Then the merged medial ones, they're forming your crest and the tip. And the lateral ones is forming the sides of the nose. And now in this diagram, you can see the frontonasal process here. The nasal part is forming the entire nose. Okay, so this part is the lateral nasal process. This central part, this is all the median nasal process. The lower part, this expands to form the upper part of this. This is the philtrum. Okay, this is the philtrum here. And you can see this is the maxillary process and this is the mandibular. So initially the pharyngeal arches are at this level, at your neck. Okay, but later the orientation, your mandible is going this way. So obviously this is all the maxillary part. So that's why you can see why this is obliquely oriented. Actually, at the neck region, here it should be. But then the mandible is growing down like this, and that's why you get this part here. So this you can go through later. And one more thing we should tell you here, the trigeminal nerve gives its 3 divisions to these 3 regions. So the trigeminal is a 5th cranial nerve, sensory supply to the face. So it picks up all the sensation. And you can see that this face is developed from 3 different processes. So each process is innervated by a nerve. Okay, so this frontonasal part by the ophthalmic division, this maxillary part by the maxillary division, and this mandibular ectoderm part is by the mandibular division. And from the second arch, whatever muscles have formed, the muscles of facial expression, they migrate underneath the ectoderm and they occupy the respective positions. And yeah, so this is here it develops. So between the lateral nasal process and the maxilla. And so as this grows, your eyes also, which were here, they come forward. Then coming to the external ear. So first ectodermal cleft. So if the first mandibular arch is called as the mandibular arch, and this is second arch. Between these two, you have the first ectodermal cleft. So when you look at your side of your face, is there any depression? So actually there should be, this is embryo, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, but you don't find them. Only one depression on your side of your face, and that's leading into your ear. Okay, so the external ear is formed from the first ectodermal cleft, that to this dorsal part. So this region will form the ear. But then this all, again, it is fused. That means again it has got leverage. Okay, the first cleft. Then how is the ear formed? Okay, so this is your ear. This is your external the ear, that is the pinna. But this part is what it is forming the external acoustic meatus ear. So you can see the first arch. This is the second arch. This is the cleft. This part is going to form your ear. And around that, there will be some auricular hillocks. Hillocks are again small proliferations of mesenchyme. Okay, so you can see they're all proliferating and they're going around it. And that's how your ear is going to form. Okay, so this is the ear. So this cleft, you can see how deep the cleft has gone. So the end of the cleft is the pharyngeal membrane. Yesterday's class you should remember. So pouch is coming from within, and then you have an ectodermal cleft from the external, and they meet at the pharyngeal membrane. And that membrane of the first arch part is this tympanic membrane. So tympanic membrane is tridermal. So from this side it is ectoderm, the other side is endoderm, and in between I told you there will be scanty mesenchyme. So when you say the tympanic membrane, also all the three tissues will be there: ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm origin. So tridermal origin is there for this thin tympanic membrane. So I hope you understood this first ectodermal cleft. And outside the cleft, this auricle is because of these mesenchyme elevations. So initially, so this is the arch position, the second arch, the first arch. So the ears were more in the neck region, but because of the growth of the mandible, they've gone up at the level of the eye. Then what's happened to second, third, and fourth clefts? So the second, third, and fourth, again, you can see there's a smooth contour. You can see here also a smooth contour. Other than this, there's nothing else. So what happened is the first arch overgrows the rest of the clefts. Okay, so it's overgrowing them, and then slowly these also merge, and then you get a smooth contour. So the anomaly part related to it in another class I will tell you. And so in the formation of the face, you can see there are quite a number of anomalies. So you can see this is oblique facial cleft. This is called an oblique facial cleft. This part, the lateral nasal prominence and the maxillary have failed to fuse. Then you can see a bilateral cleft lip. So what happens here? This is the medial nasal process, the lower part. This is the lateral nasal process. This is a maxilla, the cheek part. So this comes, touches this, and goes and meets up to the maxillary process, the medial nasal processes. So that will complete your upper lip. So, but this failed to come here. So the maxillary process failed to reach this medial nasal process, resulting in a cleft. Okay, so both sides, it's called bilateral cleft lip. So this is after surgery. And here you can see this is a lot of mesenchyme has proliferated. So it's an abnormal proliferation of mesenchyme leading to this appearance here. And this is on one side, a unilateral. And this is looking like chota beam here. So this is actually a median, which is a very rare cleft. Okay, so these are the various clefts, facial clefts. So oblique facial cleft will expose your underlying nasolacrimal duct. Then a medial cleft lip, which is rare. Unilateral lateral cleft lips are common. And then you have sometimes both sides, it is bilateral cleft lip. So macrostomia is when this maxillary process and mandibular also have to meet. Okay, you can't have such a big mouth. But if they do not merge with each other, then there is a very big mouth, it is a macrostomia. And if there are too much of fusion, okay, giving just lips, leaving only small part to become the future mouth, then that would be a microstomia. So you have to first draw the formation of the face, and then if you understand the processes, then you will understand the clefts part. Then coming to the palate. So the palate is, you can touch the palate with your tongue now. So the palate is that which is separating the nasal cavities and the oral cavity. Okay, so there should be something that separates it. So here the stomodium is opening, the oropharyngeal membrane. So there's a communication digestive tract. Then above the nasal cavities are forming. Okay, and between the nasal cavities, there is a nasal septum that is forming. But what is between nasal cavities and oral cavity? There's nothing. So if the baby drinks, it will be going out from the nose if the baby is born like that. So there's something that should separate it, and that is the palate. So in the gross anatomy, you'll study about the palate. So there is a hard palate. So when you touch it, you can feel it hard. So it's a hard palate. More posteriorly, what you'll have is, yeah. So this is the nasal septum here. So this part in the middle part, so it's like this almost, okay? So this part. So this is the palate, and above is the nasal septum coming down like this. Okay, so this part here, you can see the anterior part, it is ossified. So mesenchyme will get ossified. So that's all the architecture of how the bones are going to form. So it becomes ossified, and this is called as a hard palate. But more behind, the mesenchyme just remains unossified. So no bone deposition, rather all the muscles come there, and that is called as a soft palate. And the posterior-most edge is called as the uvula. So this is how it looks, the palate. And this is the alveolus to which all the teeth are present. So this is the maxilla. Okay, we're looking at the maxilla, we've removed the jawbone. Okay, so the development of palate is in 6th to 12th week. So up to the 3rd month, the palate will develop, and the critical time for the development of the palate is 6th to the 9th week. Okay, so the palate, it's two. You have a primary palate and a secondary palate. So just let's recollect the face development. So I told you the lower part of the medial nasal processes, they bulge. the upper part, they become thinned out to form your nasal septum, but the lower part is forming this region. It's bulged, and we call it as an intermaxillary segment. So intermaxillary because this region is between your maxillary regions, right? So this is forming three things: your philtrum, then your a little part of your behind your lip. You can feel your gingiva and the teeth there, and a small palate it gives rise to. That is called as a primitive palate. But that small thing is not enough. Okay, it's just only the anterior part it's going to separate. But what about the rest of the part of your nasal cavity and oral cavity? So that is when the secondary palate develops. Okay, so the definitive palate, which is definitive palate, is what is found at the time at the end of the developmental process. Okay, so that is formed of two components. One is a primitive palate and the other is secondary palate. So as the face is forming, the intermaxillary segment is also forming a little bit of palate. That's called primitive palate. Then that is again, the defect is compensated by the formation of a secondary palate. When these two together fuse together, you form the definitive palate. So here you can make out. So this is called an incisor foramen, okay, which you will see when you study the osteology. So this marks it. What is before it in a triangular level? This part is the primitive palate. Okay, the four incisors. So you know what your incisors are. So we have the central incisors here and the lateral ones here. So these four, this triangular region is actually the primitive palate part. This is all which has formed later, the secondary palate. And this incisor foramen marks, demarcates. So embryologically, that part in front of it was from primitive palate. Behind it is all the secondary palate. Okay. So this part here, you can study all this. So the definitive palate is primary palate and secondary palate. Then what is this bone process here? You have the maxillary process. So maxillary processes are the inner surfaces facing your stromatome. So it's looking at what's happening in the fun. The nasal cavity and oral cavity are together, and it's just watching the show. Then the genes say, just do your job. Then it starts doing shelves. Okay, so some projections move from the medial side. So because they are on the sides, see if this is a wall, there are two walls on either side. This is a cavity, and you want to separate it, make it into two rooms. Then something should come from your lateral walls and fuse so that it can separate the two sections. So the same thing. So the maxillae, they will be giving the palatine shelves which come together. So two horizontal prominences come, they meet in the midline. So that's this. And yeah, here you can see. So this part, this is the intermaxillary part. You're looking from the underside. Okay, and this is the maxillary process. And this entire thing gap, if you're looking from the oral cavity, you're looking into the nasal cavity. Okay, and the lower part of the nose, you have this. This is forming your philtrum, and this is where the teeth develop, and this is little primary palate. So okay, from forward, backward. The skin above the lip, then you have the lip, the gums, and then you have a little bit of the primitive palate. So I told you here, this is the four incisors develop, and then they're scolded by the genes to start producing the shelves. So these start producing the shelves like this, and these meet in the midline. So they have to meet in the midline and also with the primitive palate. So again, when there is a fusion, if there is a defective fusion, then again there'll be a cleft. Yeah. So in this diagram, you can see. So this is a nasal cavity here. This is the nasal septum that is forming. So the two median nasal processes are formed. This is the floor of the pharynx. Okay, and in the floor of pharynx, the tongue is developing. So you can see such a big mass in the floor. Okay, so this entire thing is oral cavity, this is nasal cavity. There's a communication here. So already they were scolded, the maxilla is scolded by the genes to form the shelves. So they have started, and this is going downwards because there is no way these two can meet because such a big tongue mass is there. So initially the palatine shelves are directed obliquely downwards. Okay, and then next you can see this here slowly with the development of the lower mandible. Okay, and so it just drops down, and the tongue also lowers down. So it's like somebody hits the tongue and says go down. Okay, so it goes down, and now the obliquely going shelves, now they become horizontal. So they start meeting. So when they're meeting here, this is how the fusion, so the mesenchyme here and the epithelium over it, it breaks, and then it forms a continuity. So these three actually represent the septum. I hope you understood. This is the region where maxilla sides. Okay, above is your nasal septum coming, and then the floor. Initially, there's a communication between the two. So the palatine shells which are forming, they go obliquely. Then as the tongue goes down, these two are going horizontally. And then finally, there's a fusion. So this is where the bone is going from. Slowly, all the parts of that, they're meeting. And also the nasal septum also has to meet. Okay. Otherwise, the two nasal cavities will be in communication with each other. So the nasal cavities, and this is the oral cavity, and you have the palate here. And now looking at the undersurface of, we are standing in the oral cavity, and we're looking at the nasal cavity. This is the primitive palate. The nasal septum is coming down, and these two are coming together, and you can see the fusing with the primitive palate posterior edges coming close and here. And this black one is the incisive foramen, which I've shown in the previous text, diagram. So this is it. This is the intermaxillary segment here, forming the lower part of the nose part here. Then here, this is the philtrum. Then this is the gingiva here, which you're having 4 incisor teeth, and this is a little bit of the primitive palate. Okay, and this is the maxilla, giving the palatine shells which have fused, and this region of fusion is the incisive foramen. So if they don't fuse, so you can see the cleft lip extending up to this palate is called as a cleft palate, cleft lip and cleft palate. Here, bilateral, lip is cleft, palate is also cleft. Okay, and here this is all fine, but these two have failed to fuse. So this is again a cleft palate. Again, you can see here the cleft lip and the cleft palate. This is complete here. And one little bit about the intermaxillary segment. So I told you, so as the medial maxillary process are growing medially, the two medial nasal process, they fuse. And this part which has the merged prominence is called as intermaxillary segment, and these are the components that derive from it. So secondary palate, they're shelf-like outgrowths from the maxillary prominences. So initially in the 6th week, they're obliquely downward, so on the sides of the tongue. And in the 7th week, they ascend to the horizontal position above the tongue, and they fuse to form the secondary palate. So anteriorly, they fuse with the triangular primary palate. And this incisive foramen is the landmark between the primary and the secondary palates. And the nasal septum grows down to join the newly formed palate. And this palate, whatever is ossified, will become the hard palate. The unossified soft part will remain as your soft palate, and it is invaded by the muscles, the palatal musculature, and the most posterior part is uvula. You can show the diagram. So here, so just behind your teeth and all, that hard one is a hard palate. More posteriorly, this entire thing is a soft palate, and this part which is like hanging down, okay, so that's uvula, right? So the hard palate, the more behind soft palate, and the uvula. So hard palate is, the palate is ossified, soft palate is where it is not ossified, and there is no bone, rather there is palatal musculature. So this is all images of, this is a normal palate and this cleft. So this cleft can extend up to the hard palate, soft palate, also the uvula also. Bifid uvula can be there. There's quite a number of anomalies, you can read in the text. You can see the cleft lip and also the cleft palate, and this is operated here. So if there are cleft disorders, so these are all the facial clefts. So failure of merging of the prominences. So failure of merging of the prominences will lead to cleft disorders. So when you see the facial prominences, that is the frontonasal, maxillary and mandibular, the mesenchyme between the adjacent prominences, they merge to finally elevate the cleft and smoothen out. So that is one type. That is called merging. Then when you have seen the palatine shelves, so each shelf is having a mesenchyme core covered by an epithelial lining. Okay, the core and epithelium is lining it. So when they're coming together, the epithelium has to rupture so that the mesenchyme core meet. Again, an epithelial layer continues above and below. That is called fusion. Okay, so either any problem with the merging or the fusion, this will lead to the facial clefts. And the facial clefts are both cleft lip and the cleft palate. So what are the difficulties? So I told you the 6th to the 9th week is more critical for the development of the palate, and cleft palate is more harmful compared to that of the cleft lip. So what are all the problems that they face? So the cleft lip and cleft palate. So when the baby is born, difficulty in suckling, difficulty in swallowing, then later as the baby grows. So there's nothing like no harm to the life. So they will continue growing. So most of the congenital anomalies, if they are minor, they will allow the child to continue its life normally, comparatively better. But if it is a major anomaly, it may lead to death. But here, this cleft lip and cleft palate is such a pain that it will not do much harm to the life, but living with it is like a struggle to be faced every day by the child and the parents. Okay, so at the time of birth, this is what it is, the cleft suckling and swallowing defect. Then speech, so speech develops very late in such children and they have to give speech therapy. So you know that for the speech, you need the tongue, the lips, everything. Okay, so the sound production, everything. So that's all defective in such cleft disorders. And altered dentition. So the dentition also will not be normal. So over one teeth, the other teeth develops or they don't develop. So there's a dentition. So overall, the look is totally changed, rather defective. It's not normal. So that will obviously give rise to cosmetic problems and it's such a pain to live with it. And when you see this are always a communication, you know, it's not normal, then there's a chance of frequent respiratory tract infections. So whenever the child is having continuous repeated attacks of some infections, definitely it will affect the child's development and studies, everything. Okay, so that's about the problems in cleft disorders. And I suggest you that you have to watch this movie called Smile Pinky. So this is a documentary movie and you will understand how people live with this and their ignorance prevent them from getting a surgery done, and how a 45-minute surgery can just simply change the life of a child. Okay, so how difficult it is to convince the parents and how they bring them for doing the surgery. And it's really a beautiful documentary. You have to watch this. I think yesterday's, I've sent you in the morning the link of this documentary film. So do watch this. So that's about the development of the face and palate, and we've got 5 more minutes. So I'll just revise it once again. So development of the face and the palate. So the face development and palate development involve prominences, merging, fusion, clefts, and grooves. Okay, so this is all the terms that you should know. And the face development requires 5 facial prominences, which are the frontonasal, which is coming from the overlying, produced by the underlying the forebrain, which uses it to form. And then you have the maxillary and mandibular, which are paired processes coming in the first arch. They come around the stomodium. And on the frontonasal process, the infralateral parts is where you get the olfactory placodes, which will form the pits, giving rise to your anterior nares, which you look when you look at the face. And then you have the eyes that develop between your lateral nasal process and your maxillary process. Okay. And then the ear that develops between the cleft between your maxillary process and your mandibular process. And then the ears are initially the lower level, they just go up. So that's about, and you have to study what are all the, how they merge and they form which part of the face. So how the prominences are formed, the importance of the neural crystals in the formation of craniofacial skeleton, and then what are the defects that that leads to the facial clefts. So facial clefts are both cleft lip and cleft palate. Then coming to the palate is, the definitive palate is having 2 components. One is a primitive palate and the other is a secondary palate. Together they form a definitive palate. So what you see in adult was actually formed of 2 things in the embryo and the fetal period. Okay, so the primitive palate is coming from the intermaxillary segment, whereas the secondary palate is formed by the maxillary, the horizontal shelves or the palatine processes of the maxillary bone. Okay, so this is about the palate, face and palate development. Okay, so you have to draw the development of face and the palate and write down the anomalies related to it. So I hope you have understood this.